Hello, athletes and fans of bodybuilding. Terrick El Guindy and Mr. Olympia. Today we have two of the winningest bodybuilders of all times. Male Dexter Jackson and female Ashley Kaltwasser. Both of them have won the Mr. Olympia. But I'm going to introduce first my co-host. He's the voice of bodybuilding. He's the athlete's representative. He has his new podcast, Voice of Bodybuilding, which is uncensored, probably one of the best content in the internet. And he's the 2000 Mr. USA's Bob Cicherillo. How are you, Bob?
What's up, Terrick? Did you just have to differentiate the male and female for Dexter and Ashley?
Yes, yes. I got a memo, then I had to differentiate. Otherwise, I would have been canceled.
Listen, I do the same thing myself, brother. There's been times I've actually announced women's bikini as if there's a men's bikini show behind it, but
you have to, Bob. Nowadays, you have to prepare yourself. Okay. Well, I'd like to introduce Ashley Kaltwasser. She is the winningest female bodybuilder of all time. She has won more shows than anybody on stage. She's won the Mr. Olympia 3 times. Just an incredible journey, an incredible career. Ashley, good evening. How are you?
What's up, people?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Also with us, he is the winningest bodybuilder of all time in the male category. He's won the 2008 Mr. Olympia. He's a 5-time Arnold Classic champion. He turned pro at the North Americans as a light heavy. He is the one and only Dexter Jackson. Good evening, Dexter. How are you?
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you. Cool. How's everything?
Everything is good.
And also with us, she's the fit rock star. She has one of the most captivating shows in the internet. She's my friend, and she's also one of the great competitors in the female bodybuilding, Isabelle Turell. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much. And also with us, he's a 4-time Arnold Classic champion. He just received his lifetime award from the hands of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's called the Sultan of Symmetry. He is the 1992 Sultan of Symmetry. Flex, that's your nickname, okay?
Yes, sir.
And he is the 1992 Mr. USA's Flex Wheeler. How are you, Flex?
Great. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Great.
How you doing?
Thank you so much. Okay, Dexter Jackson, I'm going to start with you.
Yes, sir.
And I want to know one thing. All these bodybuilders nowadays, they're getting hurt. They're getting injured. They just can't sustain a long career in bodybuilding. We talk about Mr. Olympias. We talk about other pros. They just can't sustain. Let's have Dexter Jackson as an outlier, somebody that we will not see in 50, 100 years. But if you could give an advice to all these bodybuilders that are unable to sustain for a long period of time excellence, what would it be?
Well, I wouldn't say it's just one thing. I would say it was multiple things that I followed for me to have a long career. One of those things were, don't be afraid to take time off. After every show, I usually take about 3 months off. I don't go to the gym. I don't want to see the gym. So I always lived by that. People think just because you don't go to the gym, you're going to lose everything, or, they just weak in the mind and they can't accept that, taking time off is good for you. So they feel that they have to go and get a pump every day and stuff like that. So I always felt that was one of the main things that made me have a long career, is taking time off away from the gym. So I would say probably 4 months out of the year, I didn't go to the gym at all. So I did the earlier shows and then I did the late shows. So for a total combined time away, 4 to 4.5 months off, I didn't even see the gym. That's one thing. Another thing is, as you get older, you have to change your style of training. Of course, when you first getting in the game, you have to do the heavy compound stuff, and you have to put on a mass and build a solid foundation. But once you do that and you start getting older, you have to start being smart with how you train. So I went from doing all those heavy compound movements the last 10 years of my career and I started doing a lot of mostly machine work. I joined up with Charles Glass, and we did, a lot of machine work, dumbbells, and we got away from all the bench press and the squats, the squats, but what do you call it? Barbell squats. We got away from doing all that stuff. And again, a lot of people, you have to understand that you can't worry about, losing muscle mass. You're not going to lose muscle mass, I promise you, just because you're doing machine work. So those two things right there are what made me have a very, very long, prosperous career.
Flex, I was listening to Cutler podcast, and surprisingly enough, this is not the first time that I see a bodybuilder straight up telling me that he takes 3 to 4 months off. The other one was Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman said, after I won the Olympia, I took 3 months off and I didn't do anything. Flex, what is happening? The information is there. Why are bodybuilders not following this protocol of resting the body so that they can recover and then restart their career 3 months after? Why is it not happening?
I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, and unfortunately, I think a lot of the competitors are stuck on stupid, no disrespect, but they don't understand the body actually grows when it's at rest. So if you're pounding it every freaking day and not taking any time off, your body's not actually going into a state where it's going to grow. The body grows when it's at rest, not when you're in there training. So, kind of like Dexter said, if you're going in there 6-7 times a day, exactly when are you resting? Not to mention the mental abuse that it is after going to the gym and just bang like that. I did the same thing. I took, I think one time I actually took 6 months off, and it was a laugh for Rico and Chris, because like, damn, man, you disappeared. I'm like, forget you. But it doesn't mean anything, to me, being big off season. It doesn't make any sense. Just that whatever, 30 minutes on stage, that's all that matters. And I think guys now are really abusing themselves, and they're not going to have that longevity. I'm really interested to see the classic physiques and all those other categories. How are these going to scale up in 5 to 10 years? Because they go hard in the paint, you know what I mean? And I just don't think it's necessary. But I think it's just an old creature of habit, something that people can't break.
Ashley Kaltwasser, I have a question for you.
Sorry, my son's washing dishes.
Oh, no worries. You have a track background, right? In college, when I see you competing, you compete quite a lot. As I like to joke, you are the Olympia's best employee, getting people off the Olympia roster day in, day out. My wife asked me, how many hotel rooms are we gonna get? And I'm like, it all depends how many times Ashley competes.
I love that answer.
So, Ashley, you've won a lot of shows.
Yes.
And do you rest between shows? Do you continue to train? Because it doesn't seem like you stop, and maybe in bikini is a little bit different. Does your background in track have anything to do?
Yes, it has a lot to do with my, I guess, strategy and how I go about competing, because not a lot of bikini girls are gonna like hearing this, but I'll be honest with you guys, training for college track was 10 times harder than bikini, 10 times harder. 2-day practices on the track, doing 400-meter repeats till I threw up. Like in bikini, it is much easier for me to train because not only is it less, I guess, miserable, but also I get to choose my own times. I can freely do cardio when I want or train when I want, and it's not on someone else's schedule. But, in college track, I was doing track meets in the summer and the springtime, like every single weekend. So this is nothing new to me. Now, to be fair, training for a physique sport like this, diet is much harder than it was in track, but luckily I enjoy my diet. I like to say I've actually trained my taste buds, so I don't really have bad cravings. I rarely get hungry, so I think that's very helpful for my my competition season because I can do it often. And from what I've also noticed is like my body can hold up pretty well and maintain pretty well. And I think that's an advantage that I use, that's one of my strategies. It can hold up for a long time. So I just go with it. I look at bikini training more as like a lifestyle. And correct me if I'm wrong, it is a division that it's kind of meant to sustain throughout the year with little fluctuations. I'm not saying I'm stage lean 365 days a year, but I will say I don't really go above 5 pounds. And as far as taking breaks, I do take like week breaks, sometimes 2-week breaks after I get done with a string of shows. And if I don't have a show coming up, I'll take a week or so, but not like a month. But to be fair, it's not like I'm doing the bodybuilder type workouts anyway.
Well, that's interesting because do you think that if you continue your career as a track and field competitor, that you would have sustained a lot of injuries?
Yes. At track, I have not gotten an injury in bikini yet. But in track, I had like shin splints, I had tendonitis, bursitis, stress fractures, a lot of the overuse injuries. And it's nice because in bikini, knock on wood, I have not had any. So I'm very thankful for that.
Isabelle, Turell, I want to know, so do you think that when it comes to bodybuilding, male bodybuilding and female bodybuilding, where you have to lift, you have to gain muscle, do you think those categories you're more prone to injury than categories such as bikini and men's physique?
I think you are, because a lot of us do certain movements like deadlifts, bench, obviously squats. I know Bob's not a big fan of the squats, but yeah, I think you do.
That's why he always had small legs.
No.
Now, I think that, if you train smart, obviously you're not going to have injuries like Dexter says. I know he's about training on machines as you get older and whatnot. But for me, I never had any injuries. I always trained smart, always listened to my body. I think nowadays people are just, doing the heavy weight, just pounding and pounding and putting themselves through hell. A lot of these bodybuilders and females, and that's why they have a lot of injuries. I have to give Ashley a compliment because I think she is for her career, she's been doing this a long time. And, most bikini girls, they don't last that long. If I'm right, they really don't.
Yeah,
So.
well, no, I think maybe the background that Ashley has in track and field has kind of protected her and made her body strong enough to not sustain any injuries at the gym. I do see her doing some crazy jumps in the internet, and I ask myself, how the hell does she do that with her knees? Bob Ciccarello.
Let me say something real quick. I got to say, so I got to interview Ashley in 2021. If Ashley remembers this,
I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah. I said, Ashley, do something crazy for us. So Ashley does a walking handstand?
Yeah, I did the interview on a handstand there. Upside down interview.
You're crazy.
Well, she's an athlete. I've judged Ashley in many shows, and she's capable of doing shows weekend after weekend, and you do not see any change on her physique. And a lot of times, I do get to talk to competitors, and I talk to them about decompression, like Dexter was saying. But I think in the bikini, if you're previously an athlete and you've endured a lot of stuff, you can sustain this kind of training. Bob Ciccarello, you've been on the internet the whole week right now. You're the most popular man on the internet right now. You have so many friends. You got Fuad, you got Nick Trigili, you got all these friends in the internet. I saw you on the Menace podcast with Dennis James, Milos, and Chris. Bodybuilders, we know the history of bodybuilders. Jay Cutler, he got injured and he was gone. Dorian Yates had a bicep tear. He was gone. Ronnie Coleman could not open his lat spread. He was gone.
Yeah.
We've seen that all the time. It seems like the history of bodybuilding, right? I mean, the only guy that you can definitely say, the two guys that we saw winning Olympias and maintaining a high performance was Lee Haney and Dexter Jackson.
Yeah.
What is your advice? And I mean, I know a lot of times people trying to take you out of context, but I do remember you saying, guys,
Yeah.
You know, you have to be smart when you work out, and you also have to identify the phase of your life, like Dexter Jackson was mentioning. Terrick, I knew that at some point I had to transition to a different type of workout.
Well, Dexter hit right on it. Interestingly, Dex, I just put out a Voice of Bodybuilding podcast and literally going over the same things that you just said, how your training has to change or should change as you get older. And I kind of broke things down into, decades. In your 20s, you need to build a base. In your 30s, you need to be refining that base. And in your 40s, it should be about preservation. And you and I just said almost verbatim, you don't need to squat when you're in your 40s. You don't need the deadlift when you're in your 40s. You don't need the bench press at any time in your life, but let alone in your 40s. Go in that big heavy weight, those big movements and things like that. You don't need that when you've already built a world-class physique. Dexter probably added, I don't even know, I mean, a good 10 years onto his career. And he was still fighting for Olympias right up until he, called it a day on the Olympia stage. And it was all because he was smart enough to go in preserve mode, get rid of those movements that are going to ultimately end up in injury. And the track record, Terrick, as you mentioned, is not great when we talk about, quote, comebacks in bodybuilding. As I recall, there really hasn't been any good comebacks in bodybuilding to any degree. You got Ferrigno years ago, came back at 40-something, when he was done with the Hulk and all that stuff and was able to get on stage as a Masters competitor. But that's about it. The only other good comeback of all time wasn't even by a man. It was by a woman, and that woman's name was Juliette Bergman, who did come back after a 10-year layoff and was able to capture the Olympia title. But as comebacks go, bro, they are few and far between. Bodybuilders are not like fine wine, people. They do not get better with age.
Well, yeah, I think you're correct. Dexter, what is your advice to Big Ramy? You've won the Olympia. You've won the Dexter. This show is called, we have a segment called Losing Followers. Okay. This will be recorded and I know you're enjoying retirement in Jacksonville.
You ain't about to get me on his match, nobody.
You got the Rolls Royce in the garage, but that doesn't mean you cannot lose followers. Tell me, if Big Ramy came up to you and said, Dexter, what should I do? What would you tell him?
Well, I would first tell him, I don't know if he takes any time off, but his body looks tired. He probably should take some time off. You know what I'm saying? Let his body recoup, get some good food in him, get away from doing the same old bodybuilding diet the whole year. Just enjoy yourself for a little bit, right? And then I probably tell him when he comes in and he shows that he needs to stop worrying about being the biggest guy on stage. He's already the biggest on stage. And, he can come down 10 pounds and still be the biggest on stage. So I would tell him definitely probably to tone down his size because I don't think it's necessary, because getting that big, of course, coming in every year after year, eating all this food through the year, his waist is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger as you see. So he needs to try and scale back on that. That's basically it. If that don't work, then he needs to let it go.
And I wanna talk to you about the mental. You win the Olympia in 2008,
Right.
and obviously you beat Jay Cutler. That was at the Orleans, and it was a very emotional time for you. But there was tremendous scrutiny in your life, right? During that time, 2008, 2009, you're Mr. Olympia. Is it challenging to have that scrutiny, and then you have all these events that you have to show up? People are paying you money to go across the world, and at the same time you need to maintain the title. Talk to us a little bit about how did it change becoming Mr. Olympia in terms of commitments and events?
Yeah, my whole life changed more than I ever thought it would. First of all, I didn't even think I was ever going to win Mr. Olympia title, because I've always thought of that show as being a big man show. So I never thought a little guy of my size could win. The Arnold Classic was always a goal of mine because Flex had won so many times, and most of the guys that won the Arnold Classic, they all had shapes like sort of like mine, right? They all had beautiful shapes. So guys with shapes were beating the mass guys and the Arnold. So I figured let's just win Arnold. So I ended up winning the Arnold a couple times. And then getting ready for the Olympia, it's like, okay, Jay is not looking as good as he normally look. He was kind of like going down. And I said, you know what? If he comes in shredded and try to match me conditioning wise, then I can beat him. That's when I start feeling that I really can win Olympia. So I ended up winning Olympia, and man, let me tell you, when I won and got backstage, I probably had, so many people throwing out shows and names and call me this and call me here. And, Gail was just back there just writing down the names and getting all the information. And I swear I probably, out of 56, how many weeks in a year? 52?
52, yeah.
out of those 52 weeks, I probably did about 40 appearances, 40 weeks of appearances. And, yeah, it's tough. If you don't know how to manage and, stay on track, be disciplined when you're on the road, then yeah, it can be very, very challenging. But thank God I was able to, being as disciplined as I always am, I was able to, get all my meals in. I try and make sure if I do an appearance, it's in and out. Get there late on Friday, early Saturday morning, some shows, and leave Saturday night. So I try to make sure I get in and out as quickly as possible. But other than that, it was crazy when I won, man. I've never, ever experienced anything like that in my life. And it's just amazing just to be called Mr. Olympia these days,
Yeah, well, nobody can take that away from you. One time I was talking to Bob about the Arnold Classic, and he said Dexter could have won 6-7 Arnold Classic Ohios, but he just wanted to surpass Flex. They had a beef in the past. He just wanted to surpass Flex.
Yeah, I could have won about 8-0.
Hey, Flex, this guy just wanted to go after your record, man. What's up with that? You're on mute.
You're on mute, bro.
I got tired of my dog making so much noise.
Hey, Flex, tell him what you told me.
Huh? Oh yeah. So, for me, I've always said, I'm beyond competitive. I loathe to lose. I'm playing swimming pool basketball with my kids in the backyard, and I'm slamming them in the water, and they're like, "Daddy," I'm like, "Hey, this is a game, And so I've always said, I want to meet the man who breaks my record. And I wish I could be there at that time that they broke my record. So as me and Dexter were building our friendship and traveling around more and more, it started appearing that he's going to be the guy that's going after my record. And we talked about that a million times. Everybody knows Dexter's super jokester. He goes pretty hard, but I was one of the first to congratulate him. I ran out of my seat when he won the Mr. Olympia and stood in the aisle and congratulated him while I was still on stage. But yeah, so there was always a rival. We kind of jokingly say it's like big brother beef against little brother. I don't even know where to use that now because he's big brother now. I'm not even a big brother anymore. But anyway, older brother, right? But we were busting each other's balls at Ronnie's show, and Dexter said something, and I was my typical hothead self, and I said, "Hey man, if you ever dream that happened, wake up and slap the SHIT out of yourself, And Ronnie's like, "Dexter, you better leave that boy alone, man. He's getting serious." But no, come on. Records are meant to be broken. What does that mean? If a record has been broken in so long, does that mean our sport hasn't evolved? It's supposed to evolve, And again, I said it to Dexter, and I'll say it again. I said it so many times publicly. Who wouldn't more that I want more to win or break my record than a friend of mine, so we can rejoice in both of it, right? I'd hate for it to be a guy that I can't stand because now I got to be around him a lot. So it was truly one of my friends who won. That's just icing on the cake for me, and I really feel that he deserved it 100%.
No, that's nice. We also have here present in the live somebody that has an incredible record, which he was 4-time second place, Chris Cormier. Bob, that's a hard record to beat, to come second place. I call him the Buffalo Bills of bodybuilding.
Hey, that's my team there, man. Be careful with that. But yeah, listen, you got to give it up for anybody that can hang in there, that long. And we talked about long careers. We're talking about Ashley, who's done some things that will probably never be beaten, in her respective division. And Dex, same thing. I don't know if we're going to see anybody come along anytime soon. that can challenge that
Nobody's
record.
breaking Ashley and me and Ashley's record. Forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think we're going to see it. And I honestly don't think we're even going to see anybody challenge 8 Olympias anytime soon. If that guy exists, I don't think he's around right now. Like, I think he's coming down the road. Maybe when we're all old and sharing old war stories, guys, that guy will come around. But that's how difficult this record is. You know, Dexter's record is like Cal Ripken, if you follow baseball, a record that will never be broken of consecutive games played, you know, into the 2000s. You know, in terms of, you know, over 2,000 games this guy played. And you're talking about earlier, Terrick, like what's up with these guys today? You can't forget also, Dexter would go and compete in 2, 3, 4 shows in a row before he would take off that 3, 4, 5 months that he's talking about, where he's like, look, I don't even want to see the gym. But he would compete multiple times in multiple cities or even countries for that matter. A lot of the guys today, I mean, we're lucky if we can see them twice a year. And I think, honestly, that's something we need to kind of look at as a whole, as a sport, to get these guys out there more. I don't think it's helping their physiques. I think getting out there more and getting through the trenches and putting it to the test, there's no way to simulate getting on stage and going through everything that you got to go through to get there on game day. You can't practice it. The only way to do it is to do it. And I think it's hurting the guys these days.
Yeah, I got a question for Dexter. I wanted to know what do you think of the guys competing today versus when you were competing?
Well, I competed with the guys today too.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? I mean, compared to like the physiques and the conditioning.
So you're saying between the 90s and
Yes.
90s, 2000s and today's?
Yes.
I think, to be honest with you, I don't think they put in the work that we used to put in.
Right.
I think they're so worried about social media and taking pictures and letting everybody see what they look like till they're not really putting in the work. I remember when Flex and I was coming up. I mean, we was dressed like a mummy. You couldn't see no skin until the show. I mean, these guys these days, man, they take a picture, they show what they look like 2 days out. I'm like, okay, I don't know what you look like. I don't even need to go to the show.
Now, when you guys are backstage competing, like for the Olympia, did you guys wait to take off the tracksuit and everything last minute?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. There's a lot of mind games back there. But when I first got in the game and I saw Flex and those guys backstage, I was like, you know, I was just happy just to be back there, you know.
Well, let me tell you one thing. One of the greatest physiques of all times, in my opinion, and I know Dexter won in 2008, but if you look at the pictures of Dexter Jackson, he's wearing green posing trunks at the 2009 Mr. Olympia. That might be one of the greatest bodybuilding physiques of all times. I'll put that physique with Flex Wheeler, 1998, Ronnie Coleman, 1999. That 2009, Dexter, I know you won in 2008.
Oh, my 2009, I should have won in 2009 as well. But I'm just, you know.
That was incredible. Green posing trunks. I know Chris Cormier makes fun of me that I know the posing trunks, but I do remember talking about posing trunks that are green. You wear green all the time, Ashley. A lot of the bikini girls, they hate you because you win all these shows. You take away their qualification. Even the girls that have won the Olympia, they want to have 3 Olympia titles, but they have not come close to it. Angelica was the only one that came close to it. How do you deal with all the girls that hate you because you keep winning all these shows?
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. So basically, in 2020, that's when the girls started complaining. And I competed 4 times that year in 2020. And then once I started hearing the chatter the following year, I competed 14 times. So like the more they complain, the more I compete, and I love it. I love it. Keep it coming.
The more they complain, the more you're going to compete.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
But you know what though? You know what, Terrick and Ashley? Which is it? You got the promoters bitching that when the big name athletes are not competing in the small shows, but then you got the girls that you're beating complaining because you shouldn't be doing the show. So which is it?
Well, I gotta tell you, I think Ashley Kaltwasser, as a promoter, every time Ashley Kaltwasser's name is on the list, you sell more tickets because she's won 3 Olympia titles.
That's my point.
So if a competitor comes to me and complains, well, Ashley is doing the show, I'll say, well, you're more than welcome to beat her on stage, right?
That's
She's
right.
not unbeatable. She's been beaten, people have beaten her before, so you have the option of beating her on stage. But Ashley is quite remarkable because she not only won 3 Olympias, but the amount of shows that she wins. And Ashley, I was gonna say something. Last year, I thought your performance at the Sasquatch show. Is that what the show is called, Michelle?
Yeah, the Sasquatch Trophy. Yeah.
What is the show called? Is it
Sasquatch Pro.
Sasquatch Pro, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
It's called the Sasquatch Pro in Washington. I thought that was your best look ever.
Thank you. Yeah, I was probably the fullest there I've ever been.
Do you every weekend, do you try something new? Do you kind of go like, well, let's try something new here, let's try something new there?
Yeah, I do like to experiment slightly with my looks, coming in fuller, coming in leaner, seeing what does better for me, trying different suits, trying different hairs, trying different posing. So yeah, that's the advantage of also competing frequently, is you get to try out different peak weeks, because like Bob said, there is no like simulation that is even close to actually being on stage. There's nothing like it, especially with posing. But it's something that I think is, a lot of people should consider a lot more, because there is more to improve on than just your physique, the whole overall package, especially when we're talking about bikini too. It's like, the hair, the makeup, everything. So I think a lot of competitors should compete more, actually.
Isabelle, Turell, I have a question for you, because this is your time to lose some followers. Dexter Jackson winning all these shows, no bodybuilder hated on him. Everybody
yes, they did.
I never heard anybody, because that would have been embarrassing. I never heard anybody coming. Bob, have you ever heard a bodybuilder saying Dexter Jackson is competing too much?
Well, not so much too much, but they don't like seeing a guy, and this goes for Ashley too. You got to put yourself in the competitor's mindset, right? The second they see Dexter's name in there, the show's done, right? They're like, I can't beat this guy. So it automatically takes them out, can't win, can't qualify. And then it automatically shifts to, why the hell's he going in the show anyways? This guy's already been Mr. Olympia. He's already won the Arnold 100 times, right?
The Tampa Pro is a great example.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I did hear some people bitching about it, but listen, this is a pro sport. If Dexter, I don't care what he wanted to go and wants to go in, then that's up to him for whatever reasons he has. If he wanted to get that particular title, he wanted to get another win on his resume, he wanted to put that check in his pocket, all of the above, whatever. So listen, I get all aspects, but don't hate the player, hate the game. I've always thought that if the guy or girl who wins the show is already qualified, that you should go to the next athlete anyways. So you don't preclude somebody from competing, but you also still give a qualification to somebody who would ordinarily would have had to have won. I wouldn't have any issue with that.
Do you feel, Isabelle, Turell, do you feel like girls are a little bit more aggressive? I feel like nobody has ever come up.
Yes,
they are. Huh? They are.
I mean, listen, when Ashley was, winning shows, there was, again, a lot of haters and whatnot. And, of course, I asked her on the Fit Rockstar show, what does she think about that? Which she just fuels off of it. But I want to say something about Ashley. I mean, listen, she is the greatest of all time, in my opinion, for numerous things. I mean, one of those things is, look, there is no man in history that has competed in Mr. Olympia on his first try and won, whereas Corey Everson and Ashley Kaltwasser on her first, debut of the Olympia won her first Miss Olympia.
Actually, I gotta check you on that. Larry Scott won on his first try.
Oh, Bob, come on. Of course he won on that.
Hey, come on now. Just keeping it real.
I know. Thank you, Bob.
Don't worry. Just call Nick Trigili. He'll have something for Bob tonight.
Yeah. By the time this comes out, Nick will say that Dexter's telling Ramy to retire too.
Hey, but going back there, listen, I think women are very catty. Of course, they're the worst. Besides that, next to men's physique guys, I think they come in second.
Listen, when I retire from judging, I might publish a book about feedbacks that I got. People sending me emails talking bad about the competitor that won. I can write a book about it. Just publish that book. It will be a bestseller. How women the expressions, the words. I mean, I can even read it close to my children. That's how shocked I get. It's incredible. Dexter Jackson, let's continue on losing some followers. Who did you have winning, Samson Dauda or Nick Walker?
Samson.
Was that a clear victory? Do you agree with Bob Cicherillo 100%, or you thought maybe Nick, gave him a hard time?
No, I thought he won it pretty handily. I mean, his shape is just ridiculous.
Well, Bob, it looks like everybody is getting on your side on this one. I'm trying to put you in an awkward situation.
Well, you can't, bro. Here's the reason why. Okay, all these guys that agree with me are all the same type of people, right? They're veterans of the sport. They're former Olympia champs. They've been around the sport for many. They know what they're looking at. Okay, so it's really not going out of the box. As you just heard Dexter, and listen, we've all had shows that we've all had maybe somebody else, or maybe it was really close or whatever. But as I said, of course, I caught a bunch of flack for it, right? Listen, it was kind of an easy one, too, to me, because he checked all the boxes. Now, we don't have to rehash the entire thing, but if you know what you're looking at, if you know physiques, if you know all the ins and outs of professional bodybuilding, what should constitute a winning physique, then it's an easy call. It's nothing against anybody. It's just, to me, it's not that difficult.
Yeah, it's nothing against Nick. Nick looked amazing. There's nothing against him. It's just, only thing hurt him is his physique, his shape. Samson's shape. Samson got the type shape like Flex and I. Well, not me, but Flex.
Agreed.
That can be off just a tad bit and still win the competition. If I did that, then they punishing the hell out of me. So I had to make sure every competition I won that I was 110%.
Dexter, do you see some similarities of the rivalry between you and Branch Warren, Samson Dauda, and Nick Walker?
Yeah, that can be a rivalry, big time. Oh yeah.
How so?
Do you see that? Remember, there was a rivalry because Branch Warren was very popular bodybuilder, right? He was very popular. In reality, most people that try bodybuilding, like myself, don't have good genetics. And eventually we come to the conclusion, well, my physique has long torso, short legs. I'll just be another Paco Batista. You know what I mean? Yeah. God forbid Paco Batista meets me on one of these shows. He's going to kill me.
They'll be sending bull emojis to your Instagram anytime now, bro.
But most people do not have great genetics. It's just a few limited amount of people that are born with great genetics. And I'm not excluding Bob. Bob had very good genetics, but there's a few guys that you have, Flex Wheeler, you have Ronnie Coleman, Dexter Jackson, Chris Cormier, some of these guys that just have very good genetics and they're made for the sport. So most people, they tend to root for the guy that's more relatable to them, right?
True.
Flex Wheeler is not relatable to me. When I take off my shirt and I see my long torso, I go, I'm no Flex Wheeler. I'm closer to a guy like, Branch Warren and Nick Walker. Hence, I'm going to root for them. Do you think that a lot of these people that are, rooting for Nick and pushing for Nick, or were pushing for Branch Warren, is because they're more relatable to them?
That's
a question for us.
Who's that? Go ahead, Flex.
For all of you.
You go ahead first, champ.
Yeah, I can see that. Because it really surprises me when I see some of the guys from my gym, that don't have great shapes, but they love, Branch and stuff. So yeah, I can see that.
Isabelle, Turell, do you think that's a reality? Some of these bodybuilders, that they're hard workers, they come with great conditioning. Branch Warren, Nick Walker, maybe not the greatest lines, they're more relatable than some of the genetic freaks, and that's why they're so popular?
Well, I mean, listen, everybody, talks about the freak factor in this day and age. Everybody's about the freak factor. A lot of people thought that Nick Walker should have won. And again, he's very good, obviously, based on his conditioning. To me, he wasn't the most complete package, but he did have great conditioning. Should he have won the Arnold? No, not in my opinion. I think Samson should have won. But yes, I think a lot of these guys, these newer guys, these fans are very big into the Branch Warrens and the Nick Walkers, hence the freak factor, which I think Bob had broke that down into what is a freak factor, because there's many different types. I mean, Dexter Jackson is a freak factor if you really look at it, based on his blade conditioning.
Listen, I like Marco's rule, but sometimes I go around the world and I ask people, who's your favorite bodybuilder? And they tell me Marco's rule. And I like the guy, you know, he's massive, he's huge, but I'm like, you know, you can still get a big guy with a little bit nicer lines, you know, but I love Marco's rule. I understand he's a great bodybuilder. Ashley, in bikini, having a small waist is pretty important, right? And if you don't have a small waist, you got to pose the hell out of it. I mean, you got to do yoga. You got to, you know, be a ballerina. You got to do some, you know, magic on stage. Do you get to see a lot of competitors coming up to you and say, hey, how do I hide my waist? How do I manage to go on stage and display a small waist so I can be competitive against Ashley Kaltwasser, Maureen Blanquisco, and Laura Lee Chapados?
Well, I don't really get that question asked directly to me, but I do know that you know, all the girls are trying to optimize their posing and what fits best for them. So the advice I would give them is, you know, with bikini, there is slight variations of how you can do a front pose, right? You can be a little more forward facing, a little more profile, put more weight on your hip, put more weight on the other leg. So there's many ways to kind of trick it. And you would be quite surprised at the Olympia level. I call it the backstage body, what their backstage body looks like in comparison to what they look like on stage and in their pose. Because some of the girls, even at the top, you would be very surprised if you just saw them standing straight in front of you, because some of them don't have the smallest waist. Some of them are quite.
Well, what are their names? What are their names?
Oh, don't do that to me. Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm savage, but not that savage. But I can assure you that there are some in the top 10 that are very boxy.
Okay,
very
so
boxy.
I'm gonna read the top 10 girls.
No.
Say yes or no.
How about you can just say, give your best guess. I don't know. Just I'm not. I'm not gonna be that mean.
Bob, I judge bodybuilding, and that's what I do for a living. I go to Thailand, I go to Brazil, I judge the Mr. Olympia, and I'm gonna tell you, yes, you can be a great bodybuilder if you don't have great genetics, but if you have great genetics, you have a huge step ahead. It's like playing basketball. Yes, there's going to be Muggsy Bogues, there's going to be Spud Webb, but if you're 6'8", LeBron James, if you're 6'9", 6'10", Kevin Durant, chances are you're going to be a better player. How
Terrick,
much do you?
as the great Flex Wheeler tried to articulate just last week, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, right? The bottom line is in bodybuilding is everybody loves the underdog, right? We've gone over this, and these guys were both around, so they'll attest, and you were around at that time too. Ronnie Coleman's last two Olympias, they were booing him. They wanted him to lose. They didn't like him either, beating the records, tying the record, right? They don't like 8-time champs. By the time Phil Heath got to his last two Olympia victories, they were booing him. They wanted him to get beat, right? They don't like incumbent champs, especially when they're multi-time champs. People love rooting on the underdog. And in bodybuilding, the freaks, all right, as it would be, are the underdogs. All right? Prime Dexter Jackson, 100% versus prime Branch Warren, 100%. Dexter wins 10 out of 10. Samson Dauda, same thing. Nick Walker. Samson wins 10 out of 10. Now, again, we're assuming that everybody's 100%, right? Prime Lee Haney beat Rich Gasperi 100 times. 10 out of 10, he's going to beat him because they're better bodybuilders. They're better specimens. They're put together better. The fate is always in the hands of those who are more genetically gifted if, and it's a big if, they can open that door of conditioning and match everything else that they got going for them in terms of genetics. Without that conditioning, doesn't get you there. Listen, I thought I had great, decent genetics. I wouldn't say great, but I thought I had very good genetics, but I couldn't get the conditioning. That's why it took me forever to turn pro. I got beat by a lot of people who I didn't think were as good as bodybuilders, but they came in shape. And that's what bodybuilding is all about. Listen, you're not completely out of the game. You got to do your homework. You got to show up. And if you don't have the greatest genetics in the world, you better be in shape. And yes, you're going to win some shows.
Bob,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Bob,
that's
how many years did it take you to turn pro? About 15?
13.
Damn.
And let me tell you something. I had some early success. Second place in the USA. And stuff like that. But I had better shape out of most of those guys for all those shows. But again, I couldn't match the conditioning. Still messing around, trying to get it right. Trying to come in. Not too soft, not too whatever, right? And without that conditioning, you're not going to win anything in bodybuilding.
But Bob, you competed against Chris Cormier,
Yeah.
Flex Wheeler. Even guys that had. Hey, Melvin Anthony had a very small waist. He couldn't get the hamstrings and the glutes, but Melvin Anthony was a genetic wonder as well. So you competed against very genetically gifted guys.
Oh yeah.
Listen,
I beat some of those. Listen, I beat Melvin Anthony. I beat Chris Cormier when we were amateurs. I beat a lot of those guys that were top-notch guys. Should have beaten Marcus Rule. Again, Beauty and the Beast. We don't have to cover that again. But
not in New York. You shouldn't have beaten him in New York, okay?
I don't know, bro.
You look like his left testicle, okay?
He was
Bob, he was massive at New York.
He was big and ugly. Come on, man. Where's the prettiness round?
Did you just say he looked like his left testicle?
Have
Did I
you
just
seen-
hear you
He
correct?
looked like, listen, he looked like he should have been ringing church bells down at the square, okay?
Have you seen
I just-
pictures
I just
of
want to
Mark-
understand, how do you know what his left testicle looked like anyway?
He looked
Right.
Marcus
Stuttering.
Rule is the freakiest bodybuilder at that show that he won.
Yeah.
The New York Pro. It was the biggest, freakiest bodybuilder we have ever seen. And I say, Bob, wouldn't you agree with that
Oh,
statement?
yeah. Listen, all bullshit aside, look at that guy. Unfortunately for me, he had to pick that show to hit his all-time best. And let me tell you something. There's few people he wouldn't have beaten at that show. I don't care who it was at the time, because he nailed it dead on. Listen, he was big, he was freaky, crowd loved him, and he was in really good conditioning. And that was enough. I mean, listen, I'm not a small guy, but this guy had me by probably 30 pounds in muscle. So you had to give it up to the freak. I mean, this guy was, there it is, right there, right?
Look, Bob is not a small bodybuilder, okay?
Yeah.
Look at the size of Marcus Rule.
Yeah, but he's soft. Look at that. I'm in better condition.
Well, anyways, here we go, Bob. Yes, you should have won that show. The same thing I told Chris Cormier.
Hey, my mother thinks I should have won that show. I'll tell you that.
Hey, I'm Mr. Olympia in my kitchen. Hey, Isabelle Turell, it is your time to lose some followers. Ashley Kaltwasser is going to the Mr. Olympia. Within the last couple years, she's squeezing back and getting closer to the top, okay? There is a sequence of events where she's placing higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
Maureen Blanquisco is the current champion. We have Jennifer Dory, and we have Laura Lee Chapados that just won the Arnold. Looking deep into Ashley Kaltwasser's eyes, tell me your top four at the Bikini Olympia 2023 in Orlando.
My top four, no particular order.
Of course, particular order. We're here to create war, Isabelle. We're here to create war.
You about to lose some followers.
Don't feel obligated to place me any certain way because I'm here, okay? And I will say it's still early in the season. You never know, okay? So don't feel obligated. No pressure.
So I'm gonna go with Laura Lee for number one. Maureen for number two. Ashley, I'm gonna have to put possibly third, fourth.
She's never going to your show again. Let me tell you that.
We'll put her in third. And I think that we may see something different with Romania. Bass. How do you say her name, Bob?
Who?
Romania.
Romina?
Romina
Yes,
Basualdo.
Yeah, you got Romina, and you forgot Jen Dory too.
Jen.
You forgot
We'll
Jen
put
Dory.
Jen in third.
That's another one that's never going to your show.
I got a legitimate question on the heels of that for Ashley. Ashley, you mentioned you do compete a whole lot of times throughout the year. but it does seem as though it takes its toll by the time we get to the end of the year and you're at the Olympia. So do you think if you competed less, you might actually bring a better package to the Olympia and possibly get a 4th title?
I gotta disagree with you because my Olympia looks were my best in my opinion, or at least close to it. But I think a lot of people in their mind think like, oh, the longer you take off, the more you have to gain. But here's the thing, in bikini, I don't have to get so lean to where I'm a walking zombie all the time.
Right.
I can still train efficiently, and I am still putting on muscle, you know, slowly but surely. I'm not going to put all my eggs into the Olympia basket, because how silly would I be if I just stopped competing and just hoped and prayed I did better at the Olympia, you know? So I would much rather do what I love, compete and make improvements and, you know, small little improvements throughout the year than just hoping and praying if I just waited to Olympia to compete and maybe I'll do better. So, you know, I competed a lot last year and the year before. In 2021, I competed 14 times and I got 3rd. And then last year I competed 12 times and I got 3rd. But I am getting better slowly but surely. It's not always going to be on paper. It sounds good, right? Just take a whole bunch of time off and you'll do better. But, you know, we see that happen to a lot of girls, and that's not the case. Sometimes they don't look better and sometimes they don't place any better. So I would not want to take that kind of risk. I'm not a gambler like that. You know, even though the Olympia is obviously the most important show of the year, it's not everything. There's also a lot of fun to be had in the other shows, a lot of great memories and titles to be had. So that's my opinion on it.
Isn't there a
Very
term
nice.
you go by, Ashley? FOMO?
FOMO, yeah, fear of missing out. Yeah, exactly. And I've taken time off before, long time off before, and I didn't really see much difference within my progress when I took a lot of time off versus a month off, you know? I think everyone's body does work differently like that. And I'm in a maintainable kind of physique right now anyway with bikini, because a lot of girls, they go up a lot in weight. I don't really. So it doesn't make much difference to me if I'm in season or off season.
Very nice, Ashley. Very nice. I like when you say I don't get hungry. I wish I had that problem. But anyway, Dexter Jackson, we're going to finish this live with your opinion. You won the Mr. Olympia in 2008. You're the winningest bodybuilder of all times. You won the Arnold Classic 5 times. Despite what Flex Wheeler told you in the past. Look in the camera and tell me the top 3 at the Mr. Olympia 2023.
All right, but before I answer that, 9 times.
Well, I'm saying Ohio.
9 total Arnold. Okay, let's get that straight.
9 total Arnold. Sorry, I apologize.
All right. My top 3 at the Mr. Olympia this year, I will have to say Hottie. I guess you want them in order, right?
Yes. How do you have
okay.
Hottie winning the show again?
Hottie winning again. Derek right there, almost clipping him. Then I have to go with Sampson for 3rd.
Okay. Bob, did you write that down?
I did. Yeah. He's
Bob
wrong, but I wrote it down. That's okay.
Bob and I write it down, and we do a live right after the Olympia. Incredibly enough, Bob had it right last year. He's already cocky and arrogant.
What do you mean incredibly enough?
He's unbearable. He's been unbearable since. But
listen, this is the easiest call in the world. Samson, Derek, and Hottie. There you go. Write that down.
So you say Sampson gonna win next year?
Absolutely.
Next year? Okay, well we're gonna get a little bet going.
All right. You're on, champ. All right.
Perfect, gentlemen. I want to Dexter Jackson. You're a gentleman of Scholar. A lot of people don't get to see you on the lives because you enjoy life and you have your retirement in Jacksonville, Florida. Somebody said you're going to be the next mayor of Jacksonville, but I want to thank you for participating. I've had a chance to watch your career, and I always tell people, listen, why don't you do what Dexter Jackson did, and you'll be, a legend forever, and you'll have your physique, and you'll be, memorable. Just work out like Dexter Jackson, invest like Dexter Jackson, be like Dexter Jackson, and your career will be perfect. So I want to commend you for being a tremendous role model for bodybuilding, not only off the stage, but on stage. I'm a huge fan of yours and everybody in the bodybuilding world. We truly miss you. We miss Dexter Jackson walking real slow on stage. Walking real slow on stage, right, Bob?
I always wanted to bust Dexter's balls on stage because he walks so slow. I always wanted to introduce him, and when he got to the center, called time.
He walked real slow on stage, hit all the poses, and everybody goes, "Well, Dexter's winning again." And then he ran off the stage like the check was backstage. I'm like, what's going on with this guy? Why did you do that?
Yeah. Why did you do that?
I don't know.
Well, that was your trademark.
Before you go on, I'd just like to say thank you so much for the kind words. Thank all the fans out there for always riding with me. Thank you so much to the Olympia and the Arnold Classic and all the other shows out there that gave us this amazing platform to compete and be able to take care of our families. I was fortunate enough to be able to do 21 Olympias, which was, I don't know how I did it, but it was pretty freaking amazing to be able to last that long and do 21 Olympias. And I think I did 17 Arnolds. So,
wow.
It's, and to be honest with you, I don't miss this shit at all. Not one bit. And I just want to say I stayed in the game that long for a reason. And that's to get all of this stuff out of my system. And now I won't look back ever again and ever say I wish I was up there again, even if I'm at the show watching the show.
Very cool. Very cool. Ashley Kaltwasser, you've won so many bodybuilding shows. You've won 3 Mr. Olympias. You continue to be a hero all over the world. I go judge shows everywhere in the world, and people say, well, I want to be like the OG, Ashley Kaltwasser. Congratulations on an amazing career. Congratulations on off the stage being a great role model. We are very happy to have you in the Olympia, IFBB Pro League, and NPC.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank my co-hosts here. Flex Wheeler, the legend, 4-time Arnold Classic champion, 1992 Mr. USA's. I'd like to thank fit rock star Isabelle Turell, who lost a few guests on her show, but that's okay. That's part of life. And the 2000 Mr. USA's. He is the athlete's representative. He is the voice of bodybuilding, the master of ceremony for the Arnold Classic and the Mr. Olympia, Bob Cicherillo. My name is Terrick El Guindy. We'll see you next Wednesday with Olympia Live.
Ladies and gentlemen.